So for people that may not know who you are and what you do, tell us a little about who you are and what you do, Riggs.
Sure. Well, I'm. My name is Riggs, and I came up through a very, very eclectic pathway. I started, I was brought up internationally. I got into the nonprofit space. I even became a ship captain in the South Pacific, carrying all kinds of exotic things, and then learned marketing. And in the 80s, I started a business in New York City, computerizing companies for the first time. That was a big learning experience because carrying a payroll of 12 people in Manhattan without any capital was really, really interesting. And it was also my first big learning experience, which I'll talk about later if it matters. But fast forward, I did more things to gain more experience after I gave away that business to my best salesman. He made a big success of it, and I got my learning experience. Did a lot of other things like direct marketing and so forth, and eventually landed in the .com, which was my space. The .com was just amazing. It was fast. It was crazy. Lots of transformation. Computers were no longer for computing. They were also for communication, right? Whole new world. And that really appealed to me. So I did well in that. I did even better after the year 2000 because that shook out all the dross, right? All the crappy companies got shaken out by year 2000. And after that, we did some really good work. Fast forward to about 2006, and I was taking a company public to the NASDAQ in the software space as the president and COO. And I'd kind of in 10 years, I'd gone from a product manager position, rolling out a Windows 95 product in 1995, to this number 2 role in a company going to the NASDAQ. And yet that wasn't good enough. I wanted to be a CEO. Like all number 2s, I thought I could be a better number 1. That is the curse of the number 2, right? And watch what you wish for. So in fact, I got to be a CEO, but it was in a brand new space, not software. It was this crazy space called Algae for Biofuels, and very promising. It remains promising, but it requires a very high price of crude, and it just wasn't there. So after a while, we realized that with the price of crude crashing because of fracking, algae was not realistic, and we did a pivot. We adapted and moved into water with the same technology, and that's where I learned that water is very change phobic, and it just doesn't want to change. Everything's fine, but it's actually, the more I learned about it, the more of a disaster things were in water. And as a result of the disaster, a trend towards decentralization, people doing their own water treatment, not relying on the utilities, which were generally failing. And so I became a real proselytizer for this new decentralized or distributed water treatment. In 2016, everybody thought I was nuts. Now it's a thing. But so we were early in the space. We started building companies that specialized in that. So we ended up with a combination of companies that we then monetized and have now put into a merger agreement for a company to acquire them to get on the NASDAQ. And that's what's going on right now. Meanwhile, my original company, OriginClear, continues its role as a funding accelerator. But we're really, really busy right now getting this wonderful company, which has very special usefulness and a good reason. It's a real transformation, getting on the NASDAQ. And when I say transformation, Jeremy, you were talking about people who have a higher mission. Well, Peter Thiel puts it very, very well. He says, look, you can do a 1+1 business, like yet another Amazon sales operation, and that's fine. You're not changing anything radically. You're expected to make money. It's not a big capital drain. But it's kind of like adds to the motion, right? Whereas he says there's a 0-1 business where there was nothing before and now there's something. And that requires capital, and it's, you have to sort of overcome all the inertia, and it becomes highly disruptive, but you can get into a big hockey stick and a giant win because of it and really change conditions. And that's what excited me about what we're doing.